Welcome back to the Positively Negative podcast,
where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of positivity in a world that can be quite negative.
I'm Delio.
And I'm Team Humble.
And we're glad you're here. I love that. That can stay.
Okay.
Thinking about it this week.
I'm sick of talking about it.
Over it.
So over it.
Just over it. It's interesting to me how I forget, though, every single week about replacing that.
I know.
Can we put a note in the Trello board right now?
Yeah.
That says, change the intro. Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, the 13th of March. Unlucky for some, probably. It's super, super windy outside, so I do apologise for any external noise that you may be hearing of the buffering. We are in not very high winds. They're only in the 40s, maybe 46 to 47, 48, somewhere around that. But it's going to be that way for at least another 3 hours. It's pretty windy today, so I do apologise for any sound. Hello, Delio.
Hi, Mr. Humble.
How you doing? Oh, the pause for the sigh for the breath intake.
No, I'm just, I was just a little bit...
Great.
Distracted for the second because I was making a note because I hate that intro so
that intro has to change. It was funny for 10 minutes and now it's just lame.
18 weeks later. Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm here.
I feel like this weather is making me cranky.
It's been a shift for sure.
Because I can't think of anything else that would just make me cranky.
February going into March. February's really quick, by the way. Feb was like, super quick.
Like a non-month.
And I just think because of the weather changes, like it was almost summertime in February, and then now we've gone back to it's just climate change. It is what it is. It's windy. It's reactionary. It changes within 6 to 12 hours. Like you have to adapt, and I think it's the switching.
It's the switching.
Yeah, I feel okay.
Yeah.
I feel like health-wise, I feel all right. I feel like I could do with a bit more sleep. I could do with probably a bit more exercise, as we all could.
I think we need vitamin D.
Yeah, I definitely need to have some focus tablets. Yeah, I definitely need to have some vitamins to focus up on stuff. But
yeah,
I feel like my list is there for the taking. It's all there, ready to work on.
Yeah, I felt like I've had pretty trash. I'll take that back.
I haven't had
trash focus. It just hasn't been the laser.
No,
of being really on it. I feel like I'm just trudging through it, and I'm getting there by the end of the day.
You're in treacle mode.
Oh, treacle?
Yeah, you're stepping through it, and it's sluggish because it's holding you back a little bit.
Yeah,
I think
feel like I have to put
between...
out twice the effort for the same outcome as the days when I'm just on it. Do you know what I mean? I'm still getting a good amount of stuff done every day. I really have been clearing down my to-do list every day.
You've been crushing the hours for the client, so
yeah.
Maybe the creativity side of it's been lacking a little bit.
Yeah, probably. So I feel a little bit fatigued on that front. And really what recharges me is time in the sun and yoga, and those things suffer when it's I've never thought that wind would be something on the weather to look at, but it's actually wind that's so intense that it is its own type of weather.
What do you mean?
Do you know when you're oh, well, it's going to rain today, so that's a type of weather that is going to change your plans. Wind, I never thought wind would be that type of weather, but it has been with 40-mile-an-hour winds. When I'm out there trying to do yoga and
it is
the edge of the mat is
yeah.
It's just you can't even do anything.
Also, if you go walking and it does feel like you're doing twice as much because you feel like you're doing 2 steps forward and blown 2 steps back.
I can identify with rain interrupting things, snow, really high heat and temperatures, but you would never think wind as its own weather system messing up your stuff, but it's actually the wind has been so intense that I've been forced to acknowledge it as its own type of weather. It's a windy day. So
up to now you've been side-eye dissing the wind for...
Well, because wind was you just get it on the side with whatever other weather you're getting. It's either slightly windy or not.
So wind is salad to you then?
Yeah, it's it was more like the parsley that gets chucked on top of every restaurant, every Greek restaurant dish ever, every diner dish.
Pretending to be Albanian.
But this is oh no, you can just sit down with a plate of a stalk of parsley and you're just going to eat that with a knife and fork. Thank you very much.
It's kind of rare for us to get this far inland, these intense winds for this amount of time. Like, you might get a gust or two for maybe an hour and a half, maybe. Like, we've got a system that's, like, come in and it's on its way out.
Yeah.
But, like, this is just sitting here.
Like, yesterday, it started to rain during the windy weather. Like, now it's the windy weather with a side of rain.
Yeah.
But your back was, like, wet.
Yeah.
And the top of your head and your shoulders were dry, and your back was wet, meaning it was raining horizontally.
Yeah, it was just messed up.
Which is messed up. But actually, if you're listening to this right after last week's, we have an update for you about Apache gunships, because we mentioned that.
Yeah, that was weird.
In last week's episode, I think we recorded, I don't remember what day we recorded, if I'm honest, but
Thursday, I think.
talking about Apache gunships, because somebody said something about a helicopter, and Apache gunship is the only helicopter I know of that I could just name with a brand. And they're American.
Yeah.
So, like, not very common to see.
Well, you wouldn't expect to see them here, no.
Right. And then the very next morning, I'm outside and hear
Really,
like, what in the world? Then, like, the little, like, building I'm in is like shaking, vibrating, and I bust outside, and two huge freaking helicopters go overhead
Gunships.
with these two double barrel gong things on each, like, wing, and I get back to you and you're like, those are Apache gunships, and I was like, oh my god, we manifested those.
I think those turrets are called Vulcan cannons.
Of course they are. Of course an Apache gunship would have a Vulcan cannon. I couldn't believe it. They were like one by one, they were following each other, and they were low to the point where it made like the building just like completely vibrate.
I think they must move resources from base to base, but I've never seen, and they look brand new. They look mint condition.
Did they have like a little air freshener on the inside? That's how you could tell. Little pine tree air freshener.
Yeah, I had one of those little bopping like U.S. Marshals on the dash, like with
like a bobblehead
with a manga red hat on.
Yeah, or like maybe a hula girl on the dash.
Yeah, so I was kind of surprised to see two Apache gunships. Like, no, I can understand they're just like moving them from one place to another, but like two together is kind of interesting. Like.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And like when do we ever sit around and just like shoot the shit about Apache gunships? Well, we just like get set it probably 12 hours before that had happened.
Unless there was some like exhibition thing that they were off to or something, because they were quite low.
Why would they fly so low? Yeah, that's my thing.
I don't know.
Well, just know the power of your words. Words are weapons, and you can turn your words into two Apache gunships if you believe in yourself.
Vulcan cannons.
With Vulcan cannons. So since last week, we've been playing a game.
Yeah, brawl things, brawl something, brawl wars.
Brawl stars. Like bra. Like...
Brawl bras.
Sade
brawls.
Yeah, bra. Like All Stars, but Brawl Stars, and we made an account. So, if you want to join us, we have a clan.
Called
Steemians FTW.
Yeah, and it can have 100 people in it. Don't worry, you don't have to associate yourself with us. I was just think it was a good idea to try and get Steam. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna play it, but like I just want to,
you get the gist. Yeah, you're addicted. There's team members of 100 strong, and
why are they? Well, they don't have to be
more.
Strong. Yes.
No, I mean the squad would be 100 strong if it had 100 people in it. You can have up to 100 team members in your team.
I never understood that phrase, but continue.
100 strong?
Yeah, it's just like...
Well, it makes you stronger if there's more of you.
Yeah, but you could be 50 strong or 17 strong.
You can put the strong wherever you want.
That's why it's like useless.
One strong doesn't work.
No, so anything more than 2 is too strong?
2 strong would be lame.
Well, too lame.
A big name, great. A big number, 10, 50, 100 would be strong because of sheer numbers. It's a sheer numbers thing. Okay, maybe 100 sheer numbers doesn't ring off the tongue like 100 strong does.
How about a slick hundo?
Sure, let's do that. So the idea is that there's a squad there, people can join it, and then if you win loads of your contests, or if you play like 3 versus 3, or I think if you join the team, when you log on to that front panel, instead of playing alone, if other people are on,
you can squad up.
You can squad up and invite them. And I just think it's a really cool idea that if you're winning loads of contests, and there's 100 of us, and they're all Steemians, then we might be up somewhere in the top, like 50, somewhere in the top 10 would be nice, and people are like, what the hell's Steam? So then
it's on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's like
free.
a top-down MOBA style, like arena style, like close to League of Legends, but way, way simplified. And it's like fun and simple. You can get in, like, grab a few games between client work.
It's a good time suck. It's a good time suck. It's good, like, to just, like,
it's a nice,
plan it
like,
out.
decompress moment.
It's like poor man's Battle Royale on mobile.
Yeah, so join us there because we've been having fun there.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get that InstantPot. We've been working toward it, especially because we started talking about St. Patrick's Day coming up.
I don't think it's going to happen for St. Patrick's Day. There's too many logistics in terms of getting it delivered, where we're going to get it from. But it will be... I definitely feel like it will be a moment when we do get it. It'll be like, we have the money for it now, we'll go and get it from somewhere.
Right, but what I was going to say is, did you grow up celebrating St. Patrick's Day? Or is that more of a U.S. American Irish
massively.
thing? That's not a thing that's like out here, or that you identifying like with Irish family, you never had a St. Patrick's Day.
No, I mean, most of the time around St. Patrick's Day, we wouldn't see my dad for 2 or 3 days because he'd be drunk and somewhere else.
So he celebrated in his own way.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it was never like your mom didn't cook something different, or was like a party or anything.
I mean, my mum's cooking in the 80s was seriously bad. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was real bad. Like,
a lot of TV dinners,
a lot of experimentation
Tupperware.
with things in tinfoil.
Everything was loaf shaped and in a mold somehow.
Yeah, I remember getting the bowl and getting all like mixes and things out of it and enjoying that stuff. But the food was pretty rank, if I'm honest.
Well, my mom always made, which she was the Italian one, which was what was pretty funny. But she always made corned beef and cabbage.
I think Irish
and potatoes.
I think events in America are intrinsically linked to the lifestyle that America subscribes to. Like it's days, events. America love events.
Yeah, we love having days. Like yesterday was National Pancake Day.
You love having days where you can like do something else apart from work.
It gets you through, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, now there's a day for freaking everything. But,
so I was more surprised early on in like 2009, 2010, 11 when I was being at South by Southwest in Austin, and they're massive on it. Like St. Patrick's Day was like everywhere.
Well, there's two ways that you're gonna have a big St. Patrick's Day in your town. One is if you have a high Irish population, right? Which like where I grew up, there was like a lot of Irish Americans and like in the Bronx and stuff. And the other is just if there's bars. So in Austin, I'm sure they're like, oh, this is it, because what it's become is just a drinking day for college kids.
That's
unfortunately,
all it is. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what St. Patrick did. I know he's got a cathedral in New York City, but I really don't know anything about it. I just know we had like Irish food on that day. So, we have like a Columbus Day for the Italians, which that was like every day in my house. But I just always identify with having corned beef and cabbage, like stew, with potatoes and Irish soda bread.
It's just an excuse to gorge.
Oh, God. All right, moving on.
Another day.
Positively negative.
Another day of food.
Okay.
What event is it today? It's Mars Landing Day. We should eat Martians.
Bars. Oh. Okay. Should I just move on then?
Whatever you want to do.
Great. We lowered the prices of all of our card themes.
We did.
On ihas.card.co. So if you're interested in grabbing a super simple like landing page.
Yeah, we were totally unrealistic about that, like pricing wise.
Sure. But we were excited too, and we put a lot of time and effort into it, and it's hard to go quote unquote low. To somebody else, it's like a consumable, and I get that. But when you're so close to it, and when you've just been spending so many hours on it, I think that's what.
Then it's not a business if you approach it like that.
I'm just explaining why I think we probably priced it too high in the beginning. Now they're down to 12, so that's I think a lot better. That's something. I mean, that's something more along the price that I would personally pay. So I feel comfortable with 12. The
price was wrong originally because I got inspired by somebody else doing something on card like that, and they were charging crazy more than that, like $59, $49.
Yeah, so we thought we were like undercutting
good.
That.
But then I didn't realise that with card, you're paying for like the Level Up Pro account and then another upgrade to that. So actually, the better pricing would be to do it lower and hope that somebody buys like a couple of themes or the big mega
Buys them all
pack of
for
everything.
99.
Yeah.
So we have them all up there for 99. So
I think that's a better deal.
yeah, and we're adding more too. We're both separately working on two more themes. So that's going to be growing soon. I'm excited about that, and I really like building those out. I like working on them. So.
I like doing drag and drop stuff. I've always liked tinkering with things like that. And the
Yeah.
fact that I know it works in every browser, that's the one thing that I hated about CSS and HTML, is trying to get it to work in fucking different browsers. Just
Yeah, and on mobile takes care of itself for the most part. And
it was a creative suck.
I don't know, it's what I have my personal site on, which I need to rebuild my personal site because I feel like that's just something I need to do every year or so. But it's just like, you don't have to worry about like plugins crashing on WordPress and just all of that nonsense. It does sound like we're in an absolute hurricane
It's not too
at the
bad.
minute. But okay, so there's another site that I want to talk about today. Unless you had something else that you wanted to bring up. Cool. So somebody hunted this thing called the Startup Cemetery. It's actually, the website is failory.com, Failory, like factory but failory.
Okay.
And it is a tool that somebody put together where they talk about startups that have failed. And like that's something that you and I talk about a lot, which is, oh yeah, they're only going to be around for 6 months and they're going to burn through their money with vegan tacos and a private chef in their LA offices and blah, 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 blah. But this actually kind of, I think we have like our preconceived notions of why startups fail and why they're not around for very long. And these guys are aiming to actually go into detail about what the pain points were and why they didn't last, and hopefully people can learn from that. So I thought it might be interesting to go through some of these.
Okay.
And they have a blog, so it's failory.com. I just need to find, they actually just totally redid their page. So here's some failed startups. So I'll name a few and just let me know if you maybe recognize any. Okay. Liferoo.
Nope, doesn't ring any bells.
So that was one from Germany. Tandem. Twitch highlights. Want remote job. JobBridge. Notezilla reminds me of something. Haptly. Chowdy. It's also kind of interesting to see how many of these there are that you've never even heard of.
I wonder if people are more obsessed with. It seems to be an incredibly wasteful thing to do is to see something on the web and be like, "That's good, but I wish it did this," and then going off and build it yourself. Or we had a bit of a culture of like, we are the Uber of the Yelp of the something. It was like three things together. It was like, and then people got confused as, well, you know, we're three different APIs, we do three different things that three other sites do, but we don't get any audience. Well, if everybody's going off making new startups based on something else, and the community is in one place, and then all of a sudden the site gets sold, people don't realize how much it affects the community, because they've invested time, because they're like, oh yes, this solves a problem for me, and then all of a sudden somebody comes along and buys it and shuts it down, or change, like Flickr. Let's take Flickr for instance. Yahoo, Smugmug bought Flickr, which was a weird move, I thought. Like, I think it was just a pure ego driven guy in suits, like, we should totally buy Flickr now, it's like cheap. And then it was like 2 months after buying it, or 3 months after buying it, it was like, by the way, there's going to be a cost now. So not only did they acquire a massive community who have got used to the idea of free hosting, because it was by Yahoo, and Yahoo were okay with subsidizing that for a period of time, but then it was like, you change the whole management and let somebody else be like, oh, by the way, we've sold it, but now you're gonna have to pay these guys if you want to put your videos and your pictures on it. And I just really don't like getting the amount of people that must have got an email where it was like, oh, by the way, if you don't pay, then we're going to just remove it to the last 1,000 photos. Because
especially when something like Flickr's been going on since 2005.
Because you're affecting somebody's legacy at that point. Like, this is like thousands of thousands. I know I had like 16,000 photos on there, so I downloaded them all. But you know, they could have made like downloaders for it easier to be able to pull those photos off. So they weren't. So what I'm saying is they were more interested in manipulating the relationship by by the fear economy of like, you will pay it because we know how much these photos are going to be kind of worth to you.
I mean, doesn't that sour smug mug for you? Like they make a lot of their money from photographers building out like sites and businesses and ways to sell photos.
Well, supposedly.
And so to burn a lot of those people, I don't know. I feel like if you aggravate those people, they're not going to. I mean, would you pay for a smug mug site?
No.
You personally?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's because where we're at in the world, really, is everybody else is like marching on through to the next thing. Like, you know, cheaper, faster, stronger, Daft Punking it all the way.
Yeah, I think this could be a really interesting tool. Like, there's one called Toy Guru, and that one rung a bell. I think that might have been a Shark Tank one, and it was like Netflix for toys. So it kind of like ran on the idea that like, okay, well, your kid gets sick of the toy that you buy him like in 6 months or whatever, so why not package that up, we'll bring it back and clean it and send it off to somebody else, and there'll just be like a rotation of toys. And this actually has like a full-on in-depth interview with this guy Phil Smye, who was who's the CEO of like what happened, why did it go bad, and they kind of summarize it at the top, like business costs and capital. Basically, it's just they just ran out of freaking money.
Yeah, but you know, like all of these things, especially with the internet, you have a certain amount of time before that buzz is gone, and it's maintaining the buzz.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at things like Fortnite and Apex Legends and all these games and stuff. They're constantly on a day by day, week by week, you know, like month by month basis, having to have new content, new buzz, new marketing teams, new influencers, just to keep the momentum going. It's like a different kind of crack cocaine, you know. It's like different kind of dealer. Thing is, here's the issue for me, is that ideas now travel at hyperspeed. Like, yeah, it's a great idea that after 6 months your kids' toys get sent back and yada yada, but I don't feel that people consider the expense on the environment by doing that. You know, it's like they're just like, this is a great idea, imagine how your kid would feel, without even considering the middle bit. And the middle bit is like where all your money goes to in transportation costs, environmental impact, like jobs that people are like, I've started for this toy company, you know, like feeling good that you karmically you're like doing something for kids and stuff that you can like talk about. But then being like literally going in the office on Monday morning going, sorry, we're closed, like we're making everybody redundant because like we run out of runway. Yeah. Where instead of like jobs have changed, relationships with each other have changed, money has changed, everything's down to the hour, to the minute, to the second, like, and we have to be humans in the middle of all of that. Right. Like, so no wonder there's a bloody graveyard website with sites on it, because not every idea. It's not even having a website with the companies that have died on there. What I'd love to see more is more conferences and events where founders don't just get up there to do a Q&A on their successes, but they do a Q&A on things that you should put in place before you even start your idea of a startup. Yeah. Because I don't see enough of that. Yeah, and like Shark Tank ain't gonna save you. I mean, they in particular in that scenario, they dropped $250,000 on them. Ain't no YouTube editor able to make you fix your startup, you know, from the B-roll. Yeah. Ain't happening. Have you ever heard of this one called Fez with Phez? No. It's interesting because this guy's idea was creating a version of Reddit that rewarded people with Bitcoin. See, as soon as you start a sentence with a version of, or the Netflix of, or the whatever, Uber of, you have to ask yourself, why haven't those done it already? Sure, but isn't that what every Steamed app is? A Steam blockchain, a YouTube of the blockchain, a this of that, a this of that. Correct, but the difference is it's not centralized, it's decentralized. So it's not like one company with one server in a building. It's your program is running on a distributed ledger across lots of servers in the world that are owned by a co-op. Sure. That's the difference. So yes, you're right. You're right in the sense that it is copied apps like the Instagram versus like Apex or whatever. Yeah. And again, it's a time sensitive thing, right? Because Instagram's been out a while. It was buzzy and cool when it first happened. It was like, oh, I can do photos and filters in one app. Great, I can delete one app, right? And then a year later, it's like, oh, we're adding video to it now. And then a year later, it's like, oh, by the way, Facebook's buying us. It's like, fuck you. Like, We enjoyed the buzz of it because it wasn't any of those other things. You know? Excuse me.
Yeah, but I think this. I mean, as I know, as stereotypical as it sounds for people to pitch something as, oh, it's like.
People
Uber,
need to know
but
what it's
for
like.
pizza.
Sure.
But I also think that there is a.
It's like Cheddar, right? The cryptocurrency Yelp.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, what's his name? John does.
Yes.
That makes sense to me because what John's trying to do there is educate an audience who are like clueless about why they should hold digital currency when all they see is 20,000 Bitcoin 1 month and then 3 months later 3,000. Obviously, this is not a store of currency, is it?
Right, and I think the requirement for a lot of people is like, explain it to me in 10 seconds.
Right.
Which is like, if you had to explain first gen Instagram, it would be Facebook but only pictures.
But that's
right?
interesting to me. Explain to me in 10 seconds what the site is, but then you don't get the retention of those people because they want something, they want to get it fast,
yeah.
but they're also not going to stay around.
Oh, sure.
Because they're on to the next 10-second thing.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's probably what's created that type of, I mean...
So then we expect those products to stay around when the people using them are not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's not enough substance to these things.
It almost feels like a game of chicken. Like it's like who's gonna dip out first?
It's absolutely
are the users gonna dip out first, or are the makers gonna dip out first and screw the like? It's almost like this really like dysfunctional relationship where both people are like waiting to see who's gonna pull the trigger first and leave, which is so it's so shitty. But like, there's not very much trust, and I guess that's why we favor blockchain based dApps because it's trustless. Like, you don't need to. If somebody drops the idea, it's likely that somebody will or can just pick it up and roll with it.
The majority of the time, I see, my own personal opinion is that VCs and investors, they're already made people. And so when they're buying into these, they're not buying into it for the technology on most of the cases. They're buying it because they want the audience. Because, he, you know, for instance, the guy who co-owns 100 Thieves, you know, he's like Dallas Cowboys. Like, it's a completely different industry. I mean, it's games, but it's esports. Like, why's Drake got a co-share in it?
Right.
Like, what they're doing is they realise that their audience is also, after listening to their music, or while listening to music, they're also playing esports.
Yeah.
So most of the time, you're just buying an audience.
Well, and it's like you're buying, I think, for people like that who have currency as their currency.
Right.
The next V2 currency is like relevancy coin, which is I can say that I have this in my portfolio and like, oh yeah, and when I'm at a mixer, somebody brings up esports because their like son is watching Twitch all day, then you can be able to say, oh yeah, well, you know, we have these guys and yada yada, and that makes you the esports guy in the group. And somebody wants to talk about that, oh yeah, John knows about that or whatever. So I think a lot of times people, just buy into something because it's rounding out their. It's almost like how women wear things as like accessories. It's just like rounding out their whole appearance.
It's like Office Space buys. You gotta be wearing 50 pieces of flair.
Oh, the flair! My God,
it's flair. It's all about flair. You know, your influencers are your flair.
Yeah.
You know, you're pushing your updates to your flair. Your supposed content director is supposedly your flair.
Oh, shit. Well, okay, so I just realized I kind of messed up. So, just for anybody listening who, like, gives a damn and wants to check out these sites, one of them is called Failery. That site is interviews with people who have failed in their startups. So if you want to read those are interesting. Right. So the actual one that I meant to check out with you is called startupgraveyard.io. That's when I found somebody hunted it on Steam Hunt. And if you go to it, the whole UI is like these coffins.
Okay.
Like the app icons made out of coffins. So like Groove Shark is on there.
Oh, I remember Groove Shark, yeah.
So Groove Shark, for example, if we click that one, and it gives you like a stat sheet. It's a little bit easier to go through. They were around from 2006 to 2015, based in Gainesville, Florida. They raised $4.28 million in 2 rounds, backed by 4 investors. And it gives a reason for failure, legal issues. The app was removed from the Apple App Store, which is like, literally your last nail in the coffin. If you can't get on the App Store with your mobile app.
I mean that's another thing as well, is that these are not local companies with 100 strong people going there for insurance because they know your uncle's cousins, brothers, aunties, friend had insurance, where that company might last 20 years. This is real time on the web, on demand. There's so many eyeballs and faces on it. If people want you to fail, like, SoundCloud, they've all got like surreptitious, who knows what kind of surreptitious stuff goes on behind the scenes to get somebody kicked off or make somebody go away. Or maybe they even got approached and said, like, we love your technology and we want to buy you.
Well, it's like there's a million ways to fail is what this is like teaching me, like this one, for example, is called Homejoy. I don't know if you remember them. No. They were like almost like how I was doing WAG with the dog walking, but for home cleaning.
Oh.
And they raised $39 million, and then they realized that the cleaners were going into the house having a handshake, and then the client was just hiring them to come back without the app.
It's kind of interesting.
And then it's like, where's your $39 million going?
It's kind of interesting. Like, are these the new are startups the new money laundering like avenues? Somebody can pump 39. Is this the reason why they don't talk about it? Is that if they can pump 39 million into a company like that, and then in 2 years be like, I've spent it all. Sorry. Like, isn't that what he does in the Ozarks? But we're just doing it through startups.
Well, yeah. Like, where did that? That's what I want to know. Like, where does that 30?
Nobody says a thing about it.
And okay, so this is great. It actually shows. It shows screenshots of their website from 2013 to 2015, and you can see exactly when the 39 million came in from like the first version of the website, and then the middle looks like something like, they hired somebody great on Upwork, and then in 2015 they got dropped their thing, and they were like, all right, vegan tacos for everybody, bitches. They were making it rain everywhere. They hired some fancy agency. They burned through that 39 million. Meanwhile, the people. One round of 25% of customers continues to use the service after 1 month, less than 10% after 6 months.
Jesus.
So they just found the person that they like to like.
But
and they were like, well, why do we need this middleman? And then they just cut out the middleman.
Well, it's the whole reason with the whole reason about technology really is that the more you get accustomed to it, the more you just tune it to how you want it. Like, they kind of. Startups kind of force an agenda of like, we've done this and made it more efficient, and you should come and check it out. And then you check it out and go, yeah, this is efficient, but like, it's only because now you kind of
showed your hand of what you do
on it that now I can go and do that anyway. Or like do it in the version I want to do, or at the pricing point I want to pay.
Well, that's what I love about blockchains is because it's I think it's building in the demand for transparency.
Well, not only that, you have to keep your hand in that. You have to keep value in the chain, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep some steam in that. It's like keeping some money.
Because you're a co-op owner.
Right, so you have to put some money behind the bar for your friend to come in and get a drink, or some such and such left you a drink on. Right. And so that's the difference, is that startup culture is very much like, we have an idea, it's going to be groundbreaking, we look right, we sound right, yada yada. We get numbers on board, or we go and buy loads of people in China to pretend to press screens all day for engagement. And we hope it's all a hope. It's all a hope that it's all a fugazi. If it works or not. Like, nobody's got it locked down that it's going to work. Yeah. So that's why I have all these associations, but they fail really quick. And in some ways, I wish they'd fail quicker. And I really wish they'd describe. I would love to see a startup like with its grounding from day one with ethics in terms of burn rates and like literally show me a video every week from your operations manager. Yeah, all right. Keith might be the most boring person on camera, and he might not have. So get him some training. Get him on the camera and tell me how Keith has managed to optimize the AWS bill this month. Then Amazon can use that information and be like, oh, right, so our prices, we need to have line managers to retain these startups and help these startups grow. Like every part of the chain, somebody is having a conversation with somebody that not everybody else knows about in the business, right?
Yeah, like that. I think I think there's so much pride in like the whole VC startup world that like people aren't talking and people aren't sharing these stories because they think that information, if they hoard it, they have an advantage.
Pride doesn't buy you oxygen.
Yeah, and like so if you're thinking of starting something, like if I was thinking of starting an online some type of app or some type of startup, like I would head to one of these sites and be like, see if I could find something similar and see how it failed. save you a whole lot of time and money and frustration. And if you see those things and you know how to solve those pain points, then you can proceed. But like this one, for example, do you remember 99 Dresses?
No. Oh yeah, is that the one where you could like rent it and send it back?
Yeah. So like it was like Netflix for dresses.
Not
for
that I used
wardrobe.
it or anything.
I mean, that's a different website. But 99 Dresses, they had problems that you wouldn't even think that they had. Like the team had visa issues that got in the way of smooth operations between the U.S. and Australia. I mean, that's like, how could you ever see that coming? But then they also lost momentum due to, quote, technology issues. So there's competitors who are out there who are doing well now. Somehow they've figured out a way to get around those pain points. So I don't know. I think you can learn from somebody else's failure. And like, think about like, okay, Blab, for example, that's like the video chat, like social media site where we met. You don't ever hear it from those people ever again. Like, what was the head guy's name? Brad or Evan or Steven or Keith or
no idea.
Nev or Neve or something.
Can't remember.
Where the heck is he? What's he doing? Is he flipping burgers or is he now on something else? Like, I actually want to know where these CEOs are, because I think they're able to like flip and be like, oh, I'm doing this now. And since they never really were in the forefront of the failure because they shield themselves, then they kind of get these like unlimited redos, like these unlimited restarts, which I don't think, not that someone should like shoulder all of the burden of that, but I don't know, I just feel like I want more transparency, and I want to know, oh, that's the guy who was behind this, who burned $100,000 in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in certain circles, a lot of that is celebrated. So I can't really talk about that, because in some circles, that's where a lot of the ego, arrogance of the power players come from. The fact that they can say, "Oh, we dropped 100 million, didn't work, no problem." You know,
wow.
These people can just.
So it's just bragging rights of how fast you can bounce back.
I think once you have money, I think that's all it is. I mean, I do remember a situation when Posterous got bought by Twitter because it was like a microblog platform, and it was really taking off. And I think it was people frustrated with WordPress, or they were confused between like Twitter, which was microblogging of a sort, and then WordPress, and they were like, shit, like where do I spend my time now? Like, do I spend my time there or there? And Posterous came along and were like, hey, we've got this way of doing like microblogging. You just send an email. You send an email and to this address, and it goes on the blog, and everybody's like, that's really cool. Yeah. Then 2 years later, they sold out because Twitter basically ate them up. And I get it now, in hindsight, looking back, I get it now. You're not going to turn down Twitter, but at the same time, literally 6 months after that, one of the guys set up another business, which was kind of like, we promise we'll never. I think it was called Post Haven, actually, the second thing. And I think one of the guys was called Gary Tan, who set that up. And you know, like, I'd spent a year learning the template system layout because I was really interested in making layouts and templates for it.
Right.
And I remember my reaction to it, like, fuck you guys, I'm not going to like give you $5 a month because you promise on the front page that you won't shut down like the other place. Like, you're having a second slice of the cake. Yeah. You know, but at the same time, I also respected it in a sense of like, all right, so you weren't happy at selling it, and you never really truly delivered on your original intent, and you know, money came up, and you have to make that startup decision of like, what do you call it when a startup, when you're like leaving a startup, I can't think of it now. Exit strategy. Like, with a startup, you have to have an exit strategy. What are you building this business for? To make money? To like do this for the next 10 years? Are you going to be a brand that's around for the next 25, 30 years? Most of the time, no.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got an idea. We know the big boys, as soon as they're like, oh shit, this is a really good idea, are either going to integrate their own version of it and knock them out of the market, or buy them up.
Yeah.
So I get that. I get there's a frequency there that you have to.
That seems like the goal a lot of times is just get bought. Like, what can we do to be loud enough, noisy enough, pump, like, just push, and then, like, the goal is getting bought up. It feels like in a lot of senses, which that kind of sells like the wrong idea to a community.
There's a disconnect there from the human element of like being excited and young and youthful. I guess it's a little bit like life, but like you go in like with all these ideas and like, this is going to be amazing, and like you project on how amazing it's going to be. I'm going to feel this way. I'm going to feel so like fulfilled by what I've achieved, and people are going to respect me, and yada yada yada. And then you get to the end of this grind, and it's like two guys walk through the door in suits and like, we'll give you 100 million. You're like, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, because you're so burnt by that point.
So
right?
like, there's a weird dichotomy for me in terms of what that is. Is that a journey? Like, what is that if like you end up with 100 million and you just set up an Instagram business in Chiang Mai and walk around in sandals all day? Like, what? Okay,
Yeah.
well done, you've successfully humaned and done adulting, but unless you're like then reinvesting it into philanthropic things with the right people in power, then we're no better off than we were when you started the fucking business.
Right.
So why start a business if it's going to be more efficient than other businesses before it, if actually you're selling your identity, your soul, your effort to a bunch of people who just use it for audience development at the end of it, for probably a shitty product.
Yeah, but then at the same time, like when we watch Shark Tank and somebody's got just like an idea, like it's a sticker for the bottom of your shoe, and then a shark is like ridiculous enough to be like, I'll give you $50,000 right now if you walk out of here, and they're like, it's like you're screaming at the TV, take the money, you jerk! Like,
well, I'd take 50,000 if somebody wants us to shut the podcast down. Like, I'll take 50,000 for that, especially with the wind today. I mean, this is like the prime podcasting environment right now, isn't it? I feel like we're in one of those NASA development centers where they're testing the outside shell of a fucking.
I feel like I need to get on. I need to open up a session and start recording some of the Steam Monsters quips, because I feel like it would actually really work if you were like summoning ancient dark powers and you had this in the background. I feel like it could actually help for atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was like a cool thing to kind of go through. Not that it had to be in detail, but it is finding negatives out of positives out of negatives of like if you're interested, check out how some of these startups failed and see if you can find any patterns. I would love for somebody intense as like levels.io to make like a mind map web of CEOs of these companies and be like, and then he went over here and then he did this and he went here, and like I'm sure it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, which is like everybody's, everyone in.
That's the thing. The thing is, what we just talked about there is exactly what I ended up getting fed up with every year going to South by, is that I would bump into the next team who wanted to tell me about their geolocation app that was like Foursquare and like this and like that.
Yeah. And
year on year on year, when you get the same excited group in front of you, like you can tell they've just like come out of school and they've seen all these people who are successful and they want it. Like, it got to the point where it was like, I don't even know if I've got humans in front of me anymore. It could be like a flat panel.
They're printing them in the back.
It could be an LCD flat panel going, hello, Phil, we have a new startup. It got to the point where it was like, where are all the humans at? Like, in the end, I just went to South by to get drunk. Because, like, ideas are great, but I know in 2 years' time, you'll be the guy on the dance floor at 7 p.m. at night at the first South by Southwest mixer, and nobody will know you because you've got a beard and will have forgotten your startup. So it got to the point where it's like, that's the reason why a lot of people dropped off from going to South by, is the innovation dropped out of it. Nobody was innovating, everybody was copying.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, my app. Do
you know what got innovative? Was the way that they talked about their copied shitty app. Do you know what I mean? Like the idea of the innovation, that energy went into like, how can we get this message to you in like quote unquote quirky ways, and we'll
the energy
print it on this type of,
the
whatever.
energy went in the abstraction of that.
Right.
Right.
Instead of the actual product itself, it was like, we'll take all of our creativity and innovation and put it into like some weird guerrilla marketing Banksy-esque, so South by like type
the amount of times,
marketing scheme.
The amount of times I walked to a party about a mile away and got there and was like, fuck this. Like, I literally got to the door, looked at what they had on display as what they were trying to sell, the imagery of that company, because that was most of it. If people see us as this kind of lifestyle business, you literally turn a corner and somebody would have a flat table with like USB stick, bottle opener, and I'd be like fuck
the
this
standard swag. Like,
in the end, I got fed up with it, because even though I was getting most of the time my tickets paid for like different levels of access to get into various things, after a while I was like, I'm part of the problem.
For what?
I'm part of the problem. Like, a company has sent me to go to capture media about this, but they paid $900 for tables full of junk.
Yeah, for plastic.
It's like, fuck this.
So you can walk home with a bunch of plastic. Yeah, so, I mean, maybe this one was a little bit more negative than positive, but...
Tough.
It's been...
It's what you get.
Well, it's what you get when you're just, like, bracing for impact with the,
there's a lot
wind. And
high frequency today.
Yeah, but I think on the whole... On the macro level, everything's going well. Wow, the sun just came out as I said that. I was like, wow. I think things are going well. Like, it just in general, like, work's coming in. Things are happening. You had an awesome, like, client for making some gift banners and stuff this week. So, like, I'm happy with the way things are going. I think it's just that time in between the time when you're just grinding and it's like,
yeah, I'd like a good solid 8 weeks right now to like really get ahead of everything. That's got me thinking about time delegation massively. Like if we've got steam invested in the system, I want that steam to be working for me. And I think I kind of picked this up from something that Starker said, Oracle D. Even though like I'm not into the things that they necessarily do, I do like the idea of getting people to store value inside of something. You know, like 1,000 people have a share of something in a co-op, and it's like as long as you leave that in this co-op, then you can have me for so many hours a month. I think there's something in time delegation. Like I will give you X amount of hours, 10 hours a month, and it's tracked in a similar way with the app on Upwork, you know, with the little app that runs in the tray bar. And these are the skills that I can do, like audio editing, video editing, and as long as you delegate 1,000 SP for me for the next 4 weeks, then at any time you can ask me to do any of those things and I'll be on the clock, and then we'll agree. I don't know how we do it. Maybe some kind of smart contract, Steam engine token attached to it, but I'd like to see that. I think being able to rock up in front of the machine every day and be like, oh, right, I've got 5 people who want to delegate 5,000 SP. These are my other projects that I'm working on, but not necessarily working on them. The biggest problem I think I have as a creative, or acknowledging being creative in my, you know, depending on the way my brain works that day, is that it's very hard to switch from I need to do business and make money to I want to play and make stuff, right?
Make cool stuff, yeah.
So anything that helps with that kind of bridge, if there's a delegation creativity bridge in there where it's like, don't worry, because all your other projects that you're not currently working on, if you do a post on them, or if you have somebody who's like making you stuff while you're working and they're getting delegation from you.
Right.
So for instance, what I'm getting at is, say I want to spend a month on learning how to use a piece of software, right?
Right.
I want to go deep on like some video editing tool. I'd probably delegate all of my SP to other people who could help me achieve those other roles, like text, video editing, whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm going to put these out, I'm going to put them in Dropbox. I need you to edit them and put them up because I'm going to be learning this right now. Right.
Well, it's kind of like V2 of bartering.
Right.
Like, and if you had a community of people who everyone was kind of willing to be like, I do graphics, I do video, I do, you know, social media, I do whatever, then if you were all delegating to each other, you could all afford to be using each other's services.
It's like basic income with smart contracts.
Yeah. Or like I remember I knew somebody who had health insurance through this like co-op where it was like, instead of paying your health insurance bill, everybody paid into a pot, and then if you got sick or you needed it, you put an application in to draw back from that pot, which is like people helping people instead of just one insurance company getting rich and then
which is a bit like
stiff you later.
Which is a bit like the stuff they're trying to make with this DAO and like block trades building all these little bits and pieces that you can kind of, I want such and such money. The only problem with that is it feels very much like, the problem for me personally, my choice, is that I haven't got time to entertain the mental dexterity that needs to go in that, to constantly have the back and forth with loads of people who have different viewpoints on how things should be. I want the ledger, the algorithm, not to decide my identity and education level. I just need it to be like, you've been around for a period of time, you never missed on a payment, you put the delegation in, like you putting it into these communities, and then build a ranking system around that. I'm in DTube, I support that. I'm on Twitter, I support that. I did a tweet, I want all that data aggregated and scored, like a point score.
A credit score.
Exactly. So why can't you have a
like
media
a social credit score?
Social credit score, and a bit like we used to have with Cred. Cred was terrible, but
there was the other one. well, now that YouTubers use Social Blade, but there was that. Remember
know.
that app that gave you a score?
I thought it was credit. It was the orange logo, no?
No, it started with an F. It was like your fame or whatever.
Something
you know
like
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like whatever it was more based on your influence and your reach. But same, yeah.
But something like that, I think, for certain services to then make a assertion from that, and the more data sets we have like that, the more it can make a decision. Got to be careful with that stuff, obviously, because it might be weighted in some way. But I think if you're in different parts of the chain, in different communities, at some point we're going to need that.
Yeah.
To make a decision. It's like, oh, Phil hasn't put many hours into this month. He must be working. He's signified here that he's spending a month doing this, or he's ill, or he's got mental health issues, or he's got XYZ. But he has 10,000 delegated power into these projects, and they're helping him do this right now.
Well, and it also solves the problem of because blockchains are inherently anonymous and trustless. It solves the problem of people just spinning up a million alt accounts and doing whatever the heck they want, and you know what I mean, because you actually have to have a legacy that's trackable. In order to participate on certain levels.
I don't know I don't know if it fixes it, because you're always going to have the 20-something kids who are good at maths and think they're godlike, because they just they just get off on they'll just use that as ammunition for all the other areas in their life they don't necessarily live up to.
Sure.
So they'll game it in some fucking way.
Well, yeah,
it's a game to them.
Yeah,
it's a game. So whenever you put data in it and you're using that data as a metric of point scoring for something, somebody wants to game it. It's like drug wars. Somebody span up thousands of accounts on drug wars, invested a small amount, and they're taking small amounts of steam, but from thousands of accounts.
Right.
So somebody somewhere will just do it because they can do it.
Right, but the rep, if you want to use the blockchain as another example, the rep system is
broken.
Okay.
It's broken. It's broken. I mean, the rep system.
It's not the example I was going to use, but it doesn't matter because what time are we at?
That's fine. It's broken. It's broken. It's how many interactions you've done in the web and how long you've been around. That's not enough.
I agree, but you can't. How can you game that with alt accounts? You can't. Because every alt account starts at 0 or 20.
Yeah, but you can have. Yeah, but if you get involved with a DApp, like we're involved with a DApp,
right?
And I comment just purely from a mob perspective on Steam Hunt. Mm-hmm. My comment gets upvoted. That's part of the reputation. I'm interacting.
Right.
As
in
far
time.
But as far as the Steam blockchain is concerned, all I'm doing is creating an action. It thinks. We're assuming that it's smart, because it's the way part of the rep works. It's you must have a higher rep because you're interacting in comments in a chat, but I'm not interacting. I'm just posting your
copy paste.
Your thing was okay,
right?
So in a way, people look in and they're like, oh, did you buy your rep? Well, no, I took part in a DApp. I'm a mod, and then you have to explain that every day the amount of comments that I'm doing is because I'm validating. I'm doing a validation process.
Right.
So in that sense, I feel like the rep is broken, because that looks like you're gaming. It looks like I've gamed my rep.
Right, but not though, because you're performing a service.
But what I'm saying is
consistently, and you're spending time.
Sure, but the score, the rep score on Steam, isn't a good indication of that.
So what do you suggest?
Because it can be gamed.
So what do you suggest in its place?
Multiple analytics across different dApps for time interaction, for literally time interaction with something, not just based on comments. Legacy in terms of how long you've been around, how many posts you did to a certain dApp over a period of time. So maybe I did 20 posts on DTube this month. We don't just have. Of course, we do have just a big stream of content, a fire hose of a ledger, right?
Right.
It's all just going to a ledger. But now what we have is communities within inside of that.
Right.
So I think every single one of those communities could build some kind of analytics. Somebody's always going to game it, but we can get it a little bit closer, more granular.
And people are always going to.
I like the rep to go up and down.
Well, people are always going to focus on and highlight in their version of the algorithm the things that are important to them.
Not necessarily if you set up some consortium or some group and share good.
That's the last thing we need, isn't it?
No, that's what they're doing now. That's what they're doing now. Is they're trying to share best practice.
Right.
At least that's my hope with these things, that 6 or 7 blokes get together with separate companies and we did this and this worked and it's a good thing. Like, I'm hoping that they don't just do sheep culture and be like, yeah, do that because it makes us all money.
Yeah.
But again, that's what gets me most interested about blockchains when it becomes working with a side chain, is that then you're talking to other different chains who have different communities completely.
Right.
You know, like a homesteaded chain versus Steam with all of its flaws versus EOS versus Tron versus, they all come with different agendas.
Sure.
So from an AI perspective, like writing the ultimate series or sets of algorithms which fine-tune it, not just from a mathematical point of view, but from sentiment analysis, from game theory, from like just sheer legacy on the time on the system, like how much you were involved with something, feedback, comments, like just the ultimate algorithm will be one that takes into as many data sets as possible.
Sure.
You know, like how many times have we been surprised by an app that did a thing in a certain way? I remember the first time when I opened Path, and instead of it having a slide out menu, it just had a plus button. You hit that and it popped out with 5 menu items. It's like, oh, I can do everything from my thumb.
Yeah.
I felt that was super innovative because somebody had taken what was kind of a simple linear thing of a menu and turned it into a real world time saver.
Right.
So I think anything that, it's the reason why insurance companies have done so well over the years, is that they can granularly be like, you drive a Kia, you're this age, you do this kind of job, therefore your bill's going to be this, because there's this amount of chance that this is going to happen to you in the real world.
Right. So the aim would be to translate that into measurable actions that you've done on and across the chain.
Yeah.
Because people aren't going to want to give up their anonymity by verifying those other things, right? Your name, where you're from, how much money you make a year, whatever.
Could be on a different chain, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I think
those things haven't served us anyway, have they? Let's be honest.
Absolutely not.
With all the systems out there that have all that stuff, like they're just leaked anyway. And being used against us rather than for us.
Maybe need to look more into and learn more about what actually goes into a rep score, because I know I know the things that quote unquote affect it, but I don't know what those actual items are that are the.
It'll be in the white paper, but it'll be maths, right? That's my point, is that we haven't escalated that to be way past the notion of just pure maths, right? In terms of if this equals this and minus and divide plus
right,
whatever.
Because who's to say that this real world action equals a +5 or
right,
whatever
exactly,
that is.
Right? So it's always going to be flawed in some way.
Yeah,
but I feel like something that, in the same way like a virus scanner works, where it's heuristic, right? Mm-hmm. So heuristic means that it looks for certain pointers in the data and goes, a virus like that used to look like this, so it could be that virus. So you want something that's like an evolving algorithm over time, and the only way that's going to work is having multiple data sets from different people's backgrounds. So like the 20-year-old super phenom scientist and the 17-year-old female activist, you know, like in a way, all of us putting things onto the blockchain are content in our own way from our own journey, are part of that algorithm. But we just don't have it on the other side where we don't have. I think Crimmy talks about this.
The lens of something that's formed. We just have the raw data. It's just raw.
And I think that's why Crimmy always bangs on about she doesn't bang on about it, but like she always says about the front end, like if she could do X, Y, Z. I would love to be able to wake up on a Sunday morning and being in a certain mood and chill, want to have a chill day and be able to have sliders to say the content I want to see in my feed right now is mellow, photos, video.
More like mood based.
Yeah, like, and
that's nice.
The only way you're going to get that kind of data is by lots of places on the chain that you frequent,
deciding what those moods are.
Exactly.
Instead of people just saying #blessed.
Yeah.
Because we will learn that if you are
blessed.
if you're on this,
stay strong.
If you're on the #steam it, all you have to use is #introduce yourself, and you'll instantly get upvotes, even if you've been on the chain for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Introduce yourself again. It's Tuesday. Introduce yourself again.
Hi, it's me again.
All right, we're going to finish up now because, it's 60 minutes. We were like gassing for 60 minutes. I wanted to talk about time delegation, so that kind of covered it. Thanks for joining us today. It is now 1:45. We're both hungry. I'm going to make some breads, and then in about 2 hours, we're going to take a walk, I guess.
We need tzatziki.
We need tzatziki.
Yeah,
we can make tzatziki.
And I bought an apple the other day, and I'm happy about it because I forgot about it, and now I remembered it.
Wow. Okay.
Bye.
See you guys.
You can support the show by heading to anchor.fm/positive and clicking the Support This Podcast button, or by checking out any of this week's sponsors.
Subscribe to Positively Negative wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can hang out with us on Discord by visiting smarturl.it/talkback.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Yay! Bye!